Prince Andrew sits in retreat, eyes on the television, mouth shut, disengaged. Sarah Ferguson, on the other hand, is living the consequences out loud. The fallout from Epstein's resurfacing connections hasn't just haunted Andrew. It's dismantled Ferguson's world piece by piece. Where Andrew has withdrawn, she has no such shield. Once defended as merely unaware, she now faces contradictions in her own narrative through leaked messages and emails.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Each new detail is another nail in the coffin of credibility. And as invitations stop arriving and social doors close, she finds herself unable to leave her home without fear of judgment. That isolation is more than symbolic. It's a warning. Without royal protection, without allies, without income, Ferguson faces a future stripped of stability. The idea of a memoir, so potentially cathartic, now threatens to accelerate her fall. The public no longer sees her as a peripheral figure caught in the wrong place. They see someone who remained too close for too long. And now, as Christmas draws near and her royal past slips further away, the emotional cost of that closeness is becoming unbearable. Sarah Ferguson is not doing well, and that's putting it lightly. Behind closed doors, the Duchess of York is reportedly spiraling, facing a wave of personal, social, and financial ruin that's left her devastated and afraid to step outside her own home. And while the royal family is no stranger to scandal, Ferguson's situation isn't just about bad optics. It's about survival. Social, emotional, and financial. What triggered this sudden unraveling? It's not just one thing. It's everything at once. Most notably, her name is once again tangled up in the long, toxic shadow of Jeffrey Epstein. And this time, it's not vague accusations or distant guilt by association.
If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update.
Leaked WhatsApp messages and emails tied to Prince Andrew's connections with Epstein have emerged, and Sarah is feeling the full. Here's the problem. Sarah Ferguson didn't just stand next to the scandal. She stood by it. For years, she maintained that she had no idea how serious Epstein's crimes were. She painted herself as someone distant from it all, someone who just happened to be connected to Andrew. But with these leaked communications now contradicting that carefully crafted narrative, people aren't buying it anymore. It's not just the public. It's her inner circle. Invitations have stopped. Her social calendar, empty. Her name, a liability. She's not just avoiding cameras. She reportedly can't even leave her home without fearing judgment. That infamous charm she once used to skate through drama? Not working this time. Not when the scandal she's brushed off for years is back in the spotlight with receipts. And as if public disgrace wasn't enough, there's the house. Royal Lodge, the place she's called home for years, is no longer a guaranteed safe haven. With no royal funding and no stable income, Sarah is now facing the possibility of losing the one symbol of royal adjacency she has left. It's not just a home. It's a last remaining proof that she once mattered to the firm. Christmas only makes it worse. Traditionally a time for family and inclusion, this year's holidays are casting a very different mood. Being pushed out of the royal bubble at any time will be painful, but during the festive season, that's when the absence is loudest. And now, Royal Lodge may go quiet for good. To fully understand the weight of this collapse, you have to remember how Sarah has handled scandal in the past. Her method? Stay just close enough to the royals to stay relevant, but not so close that they have to publicly defend her. It worked. For a while. She managed to play the role of the lovable outsider, the rogue duchess with just enough grace and just enough grit to be tolerated. But that balancing act is no longer possible. The WhatsApp leaks hit harder than expected. The messages didn't just implicate Andrew. They cast a harsh spotlight on those who continued to associate with him, long after the truth about Epstein was public. Sarah's insistence that she didn't know, it's crumbling. And with that, so is her strategy of subtle. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew is doing what he does best, disengaging. Sources close to the couple say Andrew is largely watching television and staying out of everything. That's not surprising. He has spent the last few years fading into the background, relying on inherited privilege to shield himself from real consequence. But Sarah? She's not afforded that same luxury. She's the one facing real deadlines, real financial pressure. She has no royal stipend, no stable commercial income to fall back on, and she's watching her last assets, like Royal Lodge, slip through her fingers. The contrast is brutal. Andrew is insulated. Sarah is exposed. And there's a larger social shift happening, too. The royal brand is getting tighter, more curated. The days of adjacent figures floating near the throne are over. We're seeing it even in how Princess Catherine has been repositioned, more formal, more controlled, more protected. In this environment, someone like Sarah, with a chaotic track record and scandalous ties, is simply too messy to include. There was a time when Sarah could have coasted on nostalgia and old titles. But not anymore. The new royal narrative doesn't have room for a woman linked to Epstein by even 2 degrees of separation, especially not when the links aren't looking so distant anymore. Now, there's talk of a memoir. Ferguson is reportedly considering writing a tell-all similar to Prince Harry's explosive Spare. And that alone says everything. A memoir can be a reclamation of truth or a last resort, and when it comes from someone in the middle of an active PR meltdown, it usually reads more like the latter. Critics are already raising eyebrows. Would it be a desperate cash grab, a shot at redemption, or just another miscalculated move that burns a few bridges she has left? One thing's clear. Publishing a memoir in this climate would not be the power play she thinks it is. It would be the final nail in her public persona. If Harry and Meghan's memoir saga taught us anything, it's that trying to reclaim the narrative comes at a price. Public sympathy can quickly evaporate when private drama becomes a public spectacle. And Sarah doesn't have the global platform or fan base. They do. A memoir would almost certainly stir backlash, not healing. Plus, there's no guarantee it would even sell well. People are tired. The royal scandal meter is full. And unlike Harry, Sarah doesn't have a current platform, a Netflix deal, or a worldwide media rollout. She has a scandal, a house she might lose, and dwindling relevance. All of this is taking a toll. She's said to be reclusive, increasingly withdrawn, and emotionally exhausted. The judgment, the social rejection, the financial instability, it's catching up to her. And during a season meant for closeness and comfort, Sarah finds herself completely alone. No invites, no sense of inclusion, just memories of a time when she was, at least partially, still welcome. People once found her charming in her chaos. That era is over. Now she's a cautionary tale, a symbol of what happens when you bet too hard on proximity to power without the structure to support it. Her decline isn't theatrical. It's quiet, and that makes it even more devastating. At the heart of it all is a question that doesn't go away. Is Sarah Ferguson a victim of circumstance, or has she walked herself into this isolation one decision at a time? Her loyalty to Prince Andrew, her dismissive stance on Epstein, her refusal to fully step back. These choices weren't made in a vacuum. The royal family may not be pushing her out directly, but their silence is deafening, and their distance, even more so. As the monarchy evolves into something sleeker and more PR-friendly, Sarah stands on the outside, caught between past mistakes and a present that no longer has room for her. She's not just losing her house. She's losing the identity that house represented. And in a world where your image is everything, that loss is far more permanent than bricks and furniture. If you want more breakdowns of what's going on behind palace walls, and who's still hanging on to the gate, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep unraveling the mess, one scandal at a time. For Sarah Ferguson, the emotional collapse isn't hypothetical. It's happening. The friends who once used to call, silent. The social events she used to attend without question, she's no longer even invited. She's reportedly so uncomfortable stepping outside, she's retreated into her home, what might soon be her former home, with only the sound of her own spiraling thoughts for company. The psychological toll of public disgrace isn't subtle. It's not about headlines or photo ops anymore. It's about the creeping dread that your world is shrinking, not just in public relevance, but in actual square footage. And in Sarah's case, the walls are closing in, financially, socially, and emotionally. Royal Lodge has always been more than an address. For Sarah, it was a symbol of proximity, of still mattering, of being just close enough to the crown to feel safe. Now, with the threat of losing it looming over her, that illusion of safety is gone. No titles, no invitations, And now, no physical space that proves she was ever part of the royal fabric. There's a reason this house is so tied to her emotional unraveling. It's not just a place she lives. It's the last remnant of a life she can no longer hold on to. Her identity has always been wrapped in access. And with the lodge hanging by a thread, she's watching that access, and while she spirals, Prince Andrew appears completely disengaged. Multiple reports suggest he's avoiding the heat entirely, largely glued to his television, shutting out the world. It's a stark contrast. One is reeling from the consequences of shared scandal. The other is hiding behind the privilege of being born into it. What's worse is that Sarah was one of the few people still defending Andrew publicly, even after his catastrophic interview, even after his associations became undeniable. Now, with new leaks painting an even darker picture of those connections, her unwavering loyalty is coming back to haunt her. Contrast that with how the rest of the royal family is currently operating. Look at Catherine, Princess of Wales. Polished, protected, rehearsed. The image is everything, and she is everything Sarah is not. Tightly managed, scandal-free, and squarely inside the inner circle. The monarchy is clearly drawing lines. You're either part of the new, controlled narrative, or you're out. And Sarah? She's so far out, she's practically in exile. Not because of a single misstep, but because of a long, winding history of trying to stay close to power without ever fully respecting its rules. There's something deeply symbolic about being cast out during Christmas. This is a season where the firm puts its most united face forward. The family photos, the curated appearances, the quiet, cold PR choreography of it all. To be missing from that picture, it's not just absence, it's rejection. And yet, Sarah isn't just being rejected by royalty. She's being rejected by society, too. The women she once lunched with, the benefactors she once charmed, gone. No one wants to be associated with a woman whose name keeps resurfacing in the context of Epstein. Not in 2025. Not with receipts. Sarah's fallback for decades was reinvention. She leaned into the goofy Duchess persona when scandal hit. She became a children's author. She launched lifestyle brands. She did interviews. But right now, there's no space left for a pivot. The market for royal-adjacent redemption arcs is oversaturated, and her story feels tied to the public. And that's the painful part. She's no longer controversial enough to be interesting, but too tainted to be embraced. She's trapped in a kind of social purgatory, remembered, but not welcomed, visible, but not included. It's the worst possible combination when your image is your currency. For years, people questioned why Sarah and Andrew maintained such a close relationship. Divorced but cohabiting, publicly supportive. There was always a level of speculation about what really held them together. Now, it's starting to look like that closeness was more of a liability than a lifeline. The public perception is shifting, not just guilt by association, but willing enabler. She stood by him when no one else would, and that loyalty, once painted as endearing, is now being recast as enabling, or was complicit. The leaked messages make it harder and harder to defend that kind of proximity. And then there's a question no one wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking, what happens if she really breaks? Mental health is fragile in isolation. When your name is poison, your home is at risk, your finances are a mess, and the only person still near you is buried in a TV marathon, how long before the cracks become irreparable? Her situation is not just a media narrative. It's real. The financial pressure is real. The judgment is real. The legal exposure, depending on how the Epstein links develop, could become very real. And for someone whose entire existence is tied to perception, the erosion of that perception is existential. It's not that the royal family has come out and exiled her officially, but their silence is deafening. No public support. No subtle messaging. Not even a whisper of inclusion. It's clear. She's been left to fend for herself. That kind of soft exclusion cuts deeper than any official statement could. Because this is how the firm operates when it's cleaning house. It doesn't need to announce anything. It just stops returning your calls. Stops inviting you. Stops defending you. And soon enough, the public follows suit. The system works not by confrontation, but by cold disassociation. And now, we're left watching someone who once laughed her way through scandal barely holding it together. There's no comeback tour, No sympathy cycle. Just silence. Sarah Ferguson isn't just dealing with the consequences of bad choices. She's living through the aftermath of a long-term strategy that finally stopped working. And as bleak as it sounds, this is where things stand. The Duchess of York, once considered scandalously charming, is now simply a cautionary tale. And with no sign of royal redemption, no public plan, and no credible path forward, the question shifts from can she recover to what will she lose next? At this point, Sarah Ferguson isn't just dealing with isolation, she's drowning in it. Her former socialite network, the elite circles that once welcomed her back after every minor scandal, have gone radio silent. And it's not passive, it's strategic. People are actively distancing themselves. Because right now, being seen next to her is like catching smoke from a burning bridge. That kind of rejection doesn't just hurt, it humiliates. There's a massive difference between stepping away from public life by choice and being pushed out of it because no one wants you around. And that's where Sarah is. No fanfare, no final curtain call, just a slow, painful fade. She's clinging to Royal Lodge like it's the last life raft floating in the middle of a sinking legacy. And it sort of is. That house has always represented continuity. Even after her divorce, even after the toe-sucking scandal, even after decades of being royal adjacent rather than royal approved, she stayed. And that was the point. The Royal Lodge wasn't just a residence. It was an unspoken statement. She's still one of us. But now, with finances crumbling and royal support nowhere in sight, the eviction might not come with a notice. It might just come with silence. The house is slipping, and with it, the last symbol of... And Prince Andrew? Silent, detached, existing in the eye of the same storm he helped create. The Epstein link that's dragging Sarah under also dragged him out of public life years ago, but his version of out looks different. His not losing sleep, his not losing a house, his not showing distress. In fact, his barely showing up at all. The optics are brutal. While Andrew remains largely protected by royal status and historical privilege, Sarah is spiraling with no safety net. It reinforces what many already suspect. She was always disposable to the firm, useful when needed, forgotten when inconvenient. The royals have always played the long game when it comes to distancing, and the message here couldn't be clearer. There will be no last-minute intervention, no public appearance to lend her credibility, no whispered statement of support from a palace source. She is, officially, on her own. This is the firm doing what it does best, self-preservation. When a connection becomes too messy, it's severed, quietly, permanently, and without spectacle. The silence is a statement. And Sarah, for all her past efforts to remain useful, has now been deemed too costly to keep around. Of course, the irony is cruel, because for years, Sarah was a comeback queen. Every time she stumbled, she rebranded. She was a divorced duchess, the children's book author, the media personality, the red carpet wild card. And every time, she pulled it off, until now. This time, there's no bounce back. The scandal is too dark, the public is too tired, and the palace is completely pulled away. Her past tactics, charm, resilience, wit aren't enough anymore. Because the narrative has shifted. She's no longer the scandal-plagued survivor. She's just attached to a scandal no one wants to... It all circles back to Epstein. The scandal that keeps circling like a vulture over anyone even remotely connected. And now, with new messages and communication surfacing, there's no room left to argue, I didn't know. The plausible deniability Sarah once leaned on has disintegrated. These weren't just background whispers. These were direct, damaging links, the kind that people in her position cannot be tied to and still expect to function socially. She may not have been involved in criminal activity, but perception matters, and right now, the perception is damning. Her only remaining move might be the one everyone's dreading, a memoir. The desperation behind that idea speaks volumes, because this isn't just about telling her story anymore. It's about regaining relevance, reasserting control, getting the last word before the public writes the ending for her. But it's a risky move. Once you put your version of events into the world, you can't take it back. If she's hoping to clear her name or earn sympathy, she has to walk a very narrow line. One wrong paragraph, one perceived excuse or denial, and she could find herself even further out than she already is. More importantly, the people she'd be writing about, the royals, Andrew, the firm, they're not likely to appreciate being name-dropped in a damage control memoir. And while she may have little left to lose publicly, burning those final bridges could make reconciliation impossible, even privately. Then again, maybe she's already accepted that. When everyone steps away from you, when the only narrative left is the one being written about you, maybe the only move left is to try and write your own, even if it costs you what little goodwill you've got left. And let's be honest, Sarah's fall is also a warning to anyone else orbiting the crown without a seat at the table, because proximity to power is a fragile thing. It doesn't protect you, it uses you. And when you're no longer useful or safe to stand next to, you're erased. The royals will go on. They always do. But the people left in the wake of their scandals, they're the ones who carry the weight. Sarah isn't the first, and she won't be the last. But right now, she's the one falling. And this time, no one's rushing to catch her. At the core of it all is a brutal reality. Sarah Ferguson's relevance was always conditional. Conditional on her usefulness, her restraint, her image. Once any of those faded, so did the lifelines. And now, the woman once known for her comebacks is standing at the edge of a cliff, with no audience, no safety net, and no one waiting to applaud. What makes Sarah Ferguson's downfall especially hard to watch is that she always thought she could weather it. She had survived scandal before, infidelity, tabloid ridicule, financial messes, and always managed to return, slightly bruised, but smiling. But this time is different. This time, the silence is deafening. No tabloid apology tours, no redemption interviews, no clever PR pivots. Just her, staring down the consequences of staying too close to a man the world no longer tolerates. And it's not just a scandal. It's the timing. The holidays, once a season where she was at least loosely orbiting royal events, now hit like a cool reminder. She's not in the fold, not welcome, probably not even discussed. The firm has always moved in cold, control waves, but this exclusion feels surgical. Deliberate. She's not just out of the room. She's off the list. Meanwhile, the machine carries on. The royals are out there, shaking hands, posting photos, presenting the image of a tight, scandal-free unit. And Sarah's nowhere in sight. Her story now serves as a shadow behind all the glitter, a reminder that one wrong association, one wrong move, and you're gone. Erased, not by statement, but by silence. In the end, maybe that's what stings the most. Not the judgment from strangers or the loss of prestige, but the slow realization that even after decades of loyalty, there was no one inside the walls willing to speak up for her. That's not just rejection. That's abandonment. And it leaves her not just excluded, but forgotten. If you're still with us, drop a comment. Do you think she's being unfairly cast aside, or is this the price of proximity to scandal? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the unraveling threads of royal drama. There's always more than meets the crown.